What is it?
Well, it's called Randomiser, and it's fitted to the guidance systems and operates under a very complex scientific principle called potluck. Now, no one knows where we're going. Not even the Black Guardian.
Not even us.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Randomiser Podcast. I'm Tim.
And I'm Chaz. Bloody hell, episode 25. And good news, we have had an honour bestowed upon us by the listeners of Podcast Monthly. We've been voted the greatest show in the galaxy.
Podcast Monthly.
Yeah.
What's the web address for that? IJustMadeItUp.com.
Oh, yeah, you've been there.
Yeah. Well, welcome along. So, lots to talk about. We'll rattle on through. Let's plunge on into talking about Flux Chapter 6, The Vanishers. I mean, The Vanquishers.
Yeah.
So many characters just vanish from that story, don't they?
So much plot details.
Yeah, but still had fun. Let's get that out of the way.
No. Had fun. God, it looked good. That whole big battle-y scene thing.
Yeah.
Or 3 seconds. Well, but no, I mean it did. It looked really good. It was really nice to sort of see some things wrapped up and others just left hanging. Nice seeing Kate Stewart. She thought she was good, although she did just stand in a tunnel for nearly an entire episode.
Yeah, I think
nothing.
I started calling that tunnel the
exposition tunnel.
Yeah, just because of where they stand around to tell each other what's happening. That's a shame. But no, I was sad at the way that Swarm and Azure sort of fizzled out, kind of literally.
Yeah, that really was a shame because those two, I mean, not as much as Azure, but Swarm was set up as this really capable, fantastic villain, wonderful performance, and I was like, this guy is amazing. But again, it's a bit like the lone Cyberman who was dripping with evil, fantastic.
I did wonder what that was.
And then
gone,
and it's the same with this guy, these two.
Well, never meet your god, I guess, is the moral. But
Well,
Azure seemed happy, to be fair. I guess if they were sort of worshippers of death and ending things, then it's the kind of perfect finish.
Cult of Death, bit like Indiana Jones. Kalima.
That was last episode. The Grand Serpent also very passively walks out to the little Prince asteroid.
That was bloody awful.
That's a
That
shame.
really was. I like Craig Parkinson. I think he's a good actor. I like the character. It was a lot of fun going on with him. And then 2 people turn up with guns, and it's like he basically does a Monsters Inc.
It's like, that's it. That's all it took. 2 people, you got me. All the time before that, his whole reign of terror, it was always only one person with a gun ever challenged him.
Well, there you go, you see. Always travelling pairs.
So does he need to breathe, do we think? Is this an airless asteroid?
Obviously not, I would assume, or eat. But I mean, it's literally Monsters Inc.
Or the Little Prince.
Little Prince,
it's like a little rose on the other side of the asteroid
That's
you'll be
right,
friends with.
There's been so much of this passiveness.
Yeah.
Tecteun stands there and gets zapped.
Yeah.
Nobody puts up a fight. It was the cliffhanger for last week. The Doctor steps out the way.
Yes.
I mean, fuck off.
A daring escape.
Yeah.
It was a bit with Tecteun. It was a bit like stand still for the special effects sort of thing, which is a shame. But again, I think there's a pacing problem sometimes with these denouements. And I definitely noticed the editing being really choppy in this episode. Like, for example, they seem to come in hard on the scenes and not have anything like establishing shots or arrival moments. And that's fair enough for the storytelling. But then you get stuff that's jarring. Like when Claire is saying goodbye at the end, it's close up of Claire, back to the Doctor and crew at the TARDIS stores, and then back to a 2-shot, and suddenly Kate Stewart's there, who a moment ago you didn't know she was there.
There's a lot of that. They used to do that in coupling, but for comic effect.
Oh yeah, deliberately.
But this is just confusing.
I think they're doing it deliberately in the shop scene, because it was the same with like Yaz and Graham popping up. Not Graham, Yaz and Dan.
Yeah, they were doing that for comic effect, as it were. But
although again, it's like nobody makes any noise coming into a room.
Please don't talk about that fucking shop scene.
I hated the chocolate joke.
What the fuck?
I thought it was like children's writing, bad children's writing.
I can get the idea of maybe, like they need sugars or whatever, Nothing wrong with that, but that's all, he's a bloody chocoholic and...
It's not funny, it's tone deaf.
Again, it's like you said about the New Year one. The New Year one rattled along quite well. And then we get that whole oh no, we're going to have to talk to each other, joke about the internet.
It was that for the whole scene. I think that kind of really tone-deaf comedy.
It's pretty pathetic.
Anyway, Williamson Sideburns, he gets wrapped up nicely, but then packaged off because the plot has no room for him anymore.
He's sort of there.
Well, he's on my big finish wish list now.
Oh yeah, I was saying last week I want him sort of wandering in, but Max Curtis expanded that on Twitter with he basically just wants him in every TV show, and I kind of agree.
Taking your idea and run with it. Yeah. I tell you though, if you think about him, he's a guy. He's in kind of formal business attire. He wanders into various different doors and has adventures. It's like, I don't know what that reminds you of. It's
it's funny that, you know.
Oh, hold that thought.
I mean, maybe him and Jericho, we can get Jericho back, and him and Jericho can go on adventures.
Why couldn't one of his magic tunnel doors lead to the back of the Suntarn spaceship?
There you go. Yeah,
save Jericho.
Big finish, you can have that for free.
Thank you. Well, I want 10%. I don't know if anybody's ever sat down and calculated how much it would cost to buy every Big Finish release, because I don't think anybody, I don't think even Bezos could do it.
Money on the plan.
Yeah. So is the universe destroyed? It's certainly left implied that nothing's been fixed. There's a very thin reading of, as you were talking about them rewinding and replaying things, to apply that to the first Flux event.
Yeah. My reading of the whole rewinding, replaying was basically like the final death to torture as a constant torture to the Doctor.
Yeah, but only the final moment.
Yeah, but to me, it basically does seem like we've kind of wiped out a lot of the universe.
Yeah.
We wiped out all of the Daleks.
Well, the whole fleet, they say.
Well, that would be all the Daleks.
Well, maybe the one at New Year, because this is where you're going, isn't it?
Well, no. The New Year, I think, is the one that was built. They seem to have wiped out all the Daleks, all the Cybermen, and probably all the Suntarans, by the looks of things. We're in a very empty universe.
Yeah. I think, in a effectively infinite universe, there's still room, but I think it's going to be interesting narratively whether the show just kind of forgets about the tattered remains of the universe in future.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they might. But the thing is that it's brave not to do a reset button.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think, that's quite interesting, but I think he's written himself into a corner.
I think it's pretty shoddy to have that very casual genocide if they are all wiped out, the Daleks sometimes.
No, I mean, talking casual genocide, Carbonistas people.
Yeah, but that was the Suntarans and their monsters, so...
Oh, no, I know, but the Doctor didn't seem to... Nobody seemed to...
You got a quick sorry. It wasn't up to Tennant levels of repeating it 10 times until nobody believes you anymore, but at least that was acknowledged by the Doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a genocide. It wasn't just, a couple of casual random ships.
The Doctor was like, nice idea, I'll do it 3 times as big. But no, I mean, this is the same character who...
It's supposed to be her pal. You know what I mean?
I know.
I know she
the plot doesn't have time for dwelling on any of the losses. Tecteun's death doesn't get a blink. The Doctor sort of 3-4 episodes ago was berating the English soldier for blowing up a few escaping Suntarans. So it's like, you ain't seen nothing. Yeah, it's not a good note for the character. It's not a good look for them.
No,
I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't have used that solution. I'm saying that a bit of agonising about it, please.
Yeah, I genuinely think he took on too much. I think he had too much plot going on and had to move some of it around. I mean, splitting the Doctor into 3 allowed them to do all that plot,
I like that very much.
Oh, it was clever. But if you need to do things like that anyway, you're kind of admitting to yourself, I've kind of overwritten this a little. That wasn't necessary. I think it may have only been created because there was too much going on.
Well, I don't have a problem with it at all. I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a strength of the episode.
Yeah.
So my next note is that I like that split into 3 docs, and getting to it once was nice. The interrogation scene, I think, was maybe the strongest in it, and certainly, Jodie versus Serpent was a lovely scene, really nicely played.
Because I did say at the time that was Jodie taking charge. She was in charge of that scene, and that I know I'm mentioning Maxine Alderton again, but whenever she writes the Doctor's the one in charge, and that's how it felt.
Well, we speculate. I mean, we're looking at co-written episodes. I suppose Villa Diodati is the go-to one. I thought the other really disappointing element for me was Diane's weird rejection of Dan at the end. And suddenly she's banging on about, you were late. And he doesn't say, well, I got kidnapped by giant hairy space dog. Well, he sort of does. But all you get is Diane's shocked reaction at giant hairy space dog.
Yeah,
and his lines about it wasn't my fault are pathetic. I think it's just a poor excuse to make him available to travel in the TARDIS.
It's convenience.
Yeah.
It's convenience that they've written it. Yeah, she's probably, now that it's over, the trauma has sort of hit her a little bit.
Yeah, you just don't get
But
that.
I don't, I mean, really and truly, you know, I mean...
It's just like this character trait of being absolutely fascistic about timekeeping.
We kind of know, basically, what's going to, you know, she's going to appear in the special, no doubt. And
I hope so, 'cause she's great.
Yeah, I mean, she is.
It's an
and
interesting...
I did love her, the fact that, you know, she's a museum assistant librarian, whatever, and yet she's the one that kind of saves everything and seems to be very knowledgeable.
Well, I like that Diane has the idea that saves the universe, but she's been inside Passenger for a weird amount of very flexible time, and also, you know, it is slightly odd that Diane's suddenly full of knowledge and know-how about this very alien environment, but I think you can sort of excuse that on grounds of time spent and being just generally a clever character.
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, as I say, it was like, really, but who cares, because she was great. I really liked the character. I'm
going to be a complete hypocrite now and think, why didn't she team up with Dan and they actually both travel? And let's have a crowded TARDIS. I want all these characters.
Yeah, I mean, they
Jericho
are
too.
Good, but yeah.
I know, I want 7 companions.
Funny enough, sometimes that kind of works. But...
Well, in moments, of course, it was very full TARDIS by the end, wasn't it? Well, with Bell and Vinder. I was very moved by their sweet reunion, and that worked for me. And then Vinder did get his kind of payoff scene with the Serpent, although the disappointment with that scene was more about how passive the Serpent was. Yeah. But yeah, Vinder did sort of just wander about for a few episodes, really.
Kind of, when he went into Passenger with Diane, I mean, he was sort of just there. I think he was a really good character, but he sort of, I think Chibnall had sort of, well, that's all he needs to do now. So
yeah, well, he's had his 2 big moments where Grand Serpent in the second episode, and then this sort of weak payoff with the Serpent at the end. But I think it's another character who sort of vanishes from the plot a little, and in a way it's inevitable because you got to make room for this to be Jodie's episode, which at least it was.
Oh yeah.
In a way that the Timeless Children wasn't. You know, so that was Sacha Dhawan's episode. And
and at least she was moving about this episode. Because the last episode was like, I mean, she literally stood in a room for the entire episode.
Well, her legs must have been cramping by then, so jumping about a lot.
And she must have been gutted because, you know, she had no reason to use the sonic screwdriver.
Well, there was a fair bit of that.
A fucking reason.
You've poisoned my mind, and I'm spotting all the sonic usage
I mean,
now.
this week...
But I'm seeing it now, and I didn't before. And one thing we were spared was any kind of unsafe candles, at least this week.
Yeah.
Didn't spot any of those.
Yeah. Well, there might be some in the Williamson tunnels, but I didn't.
when we get the big finish, it's going to be Williamson and the candles.
Yeah.
It's like, my sideburns are on fire.
I do like Vinder and Bell. I think they're really nice. But at least Bell had a bit of, you know, stuff to do. You know, and Tiggy or... Tigme. I don't know. They should market that.
Probably will.
Know, they really should, because a Doctor Who Tamagotchi thing, you know. It's But you pointed out a very interesting thing that I completely missed, and that was about...
Oh, the Grand Serpent?
Yeah.
Well, in the interrogation scene, the Doctor says a double pulse in his neck, and I'm like, so does that keep alive the idea that this race are double-hearted, and therefore keep it a plausible thing that the Doctor is the child of Bell and Vinder?
Yeah.
However, I've since sort of thought about that dialogue again, and I think it may be just more about the fact that he cohabits with the Serpent as a kind of dual entity.
Possibly, because she does say it again somewhere, but I can't remember what the word she used.
And there's a lot of techno babble, really.
Yeah,
or biological babble, really.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. It doesn't destroy that theory.
Yeah, I think it's a wide enough hole to build something on if you wanted to in the future. But, because I don't know, I've just so come around to the idea of Bell and Vinder as being the Doctor's parents.
I'm actually quite impressed that he didn't do that, because
when would he
he's
fit it in?
Destroyed everything else. He might as well just fuck up that as well.
I mean, he's slipping. He's got his annoy Chaz list, and it's not...
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Dr. Ruth didn't appear.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I mean, really and truly...
Well, Division is just gone from the plot in that episode.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, they've basically had 5 years of this now. I'm talking about with gaps and everything, right? She's been the Doctor for about 5 years, right? We've had 3 seasons. It started in the second episode, the whole timeless child thing, right? This has been going forever, right? We get to the end of the season and we're not really any wiser than we were at the beginning, because I still say that in the tea towel episode, you know, they said the timeless child. They're talking about her. So I was never in any doubt from then on that she was the timeless child. Okay, she's the time, but we don't know anything else. We've got the fob watch. That's an obvious, you know, Chekhov's gun or Chekhov's fob watch that's going to come out at some point, probably in the last special. But it just seemed to go nowhere.
Well, I've gone back and forth on the fob watch thing, because there's all this, like, oh, I must find out who I was. And then actually, I think it's a fairly strong reading of it that the Doctor has realised that this is just an obsession and, you know, spoiling a relationship with Yaz and so on. We have that lovely scene between the Doctor and Yaz, which so I do see some character growth, and putting it away for next time or until I really need it. That's a lovely moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was okay. To be honest, if they decide not to come back to it within Chibnall's, you know, last couple, then that's a good out for Russell to just say, right, well, we'll just ignore that, or we'll just gloss over it, or whatever he wants to do.
After
you know?
Russell's turn and Moffat's turn again, when Chibnall comes back,
stuff.
you can
exactly.
fish it out
And
then.
he can pick it up there.
That'd be like 2035 or something.
You know, I'm not asking for them to retcon it or
Good.
anything like that. You know,
Not allowed.
I mean, well, I do over or whatever. I mean, it's like half human. It's nonsense. I ignore it. To me, this is nonsense, but some people like it, some people don't. I'm ignoring it, and this feels a bit like, well, we'll just sort of put that into one side. And
Yeah.
like
Just like
you
the
say,
challenge is to find a creative way to address
yeah,
something.
I mean, I don't mind. I just think we really need a better writer to tackle this.
Oh, we're getting one.
You know? But the actual so much fizzled out, you know.
Yeah.
The final meeting of Jodie with Time, which is a bit weird. I mean, we're going to Sapphire and Steel territory, but and she did look good in the dark coat.
Played well as well.
Yeah. Actually, I thought her playing Time, she did play it quite. You know, there was a
felt
little
different.
Yeah,
nice.
and that was nice. But and
Like
it was
another
great,
prophecy of
but
regeneration.
It was great. Prophecy of regeneration, but fuck off. In fact, fuck off. Come back in and fuck off again with the forces and their master.
Why? What do you think it
What
means?
do you mean, their master?
But what do you think they mean by that?
I know. I mean, I'm racking my fucking... I mean, piss off, Chibnall. Are you fucking writing for a school contest?
Look, it's...
That is fucking pish dialogue.
Oh god, it's not so much foreshadowing as Foresledgehammering. But yeah. Well, I think Sacha Dhawan's employment prospects are good for the foreseeable.
Yeah, well, you know.
Anyway.
I mean, come on.
There's one other bit I want to rant about negatively, and then I'll calm down a bit. So the confrontation with Azure, that kind of that moral discussion about how come you're so big on life, what's the point of that, I thought was crap.
That was awful.
I mean, it's the woolly bullshit Doctor coming back with essentially that awful trope of things happen for a reason, which...
And then she says, "Fate, that's your thing."
I mean...
I know.
I can't muster a coherent counter-argument because I'm so irritated by it, but it is a mark of shitty writing in every movie it's ever been in, and I include my favourite movie ever, Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
In that. I mean, it's a throwaway line in Ghostbusters, so, you know, retcon. But it's really... It's just... There's so many better arguments you can have for the value of life than some fluffiness about, balance, the universe, blah.
But he does this. He is the only person that sort of, you know, seems to try to get some spirituality into Doctor
It's
Who.
not even that I didn't like so much.
I just mean, you know, like if you look at Battle of
Yeah.
Raxacorica.
That's a good episode.
Yeah. But, you know, it's like, this fucking woolly faith shit.
It's not even that part that disliked. The word was kind of more, it wasn't even used in a spiritual sense, it was just like belief, it's become synonymous. It was literally that was the best Jodie's Doctor could do.
I know.
I mean, sure, maybe she's at 1/3 capacity, but no, the Doctor brilliantly.
You look at Ark in Space,
where
he talks about the achievements of humanity and how wonderful. Earthshock, a meal, a well-prepared meal, all these beautiful little speeches that defend life, humanity, everything. And yet you come up with, you want people to live, and it's like, well, if you ask anybody, unless you're a fucking serial killer.
Which, to be fair, Swarm and Azure are.
Yeah, but most people want to live. Most people want people to live, and
I think
fuck off.
I think there's been so much that's great this season. I've loved so much of it, but this is the kind of paper thin cargo cull epic writing that Chibnall's awful at.
But this is what we're saying about surface level.
Yeah,
I know we're ranting about some bits, and there are brilliant bits, as we say, but it's sort of. I always find this with Chibnall. I watch something that's happened and I think to myself, if you'd done 3 things, I'd have loved it. I know it's not his episode, but it takes you away. And if they changed the fucking frog, like I'd said, to the grandmother, and, little things like that. Get rid of the space races from Rosa. Little things. And it's the same with this. We're getting little bits peppered in, and you think,
I'm not even talking about plot elements like that. I'm talking about just the writing failing the setup.
Yeah.
It just doesn't cash the check it's written. However, let's lighten the tone a bit. So I noticed you got your wish for the Liverbirds title sequence populated by Sontarans.
Yeah, we've been talking about I'm actually going to get that and put the Liverbirds theme over it.
Great, I can go up there with your Merca clip. Now, I had a bit of a revelation, actually. So when Azure is saying that she wants the end of all spatial objects, she's basically just an evil Marie Kondo, isn't she? So Azure says she and Swarm were left suffering by the Division and the Doctor, but they didn't leave her suffering. So they would put her in a nice sort of cosy house in the Arctic Circle. Maybe, I thought the only explanation is that maybe it didn't have broadband.
Yeah, and maybe he was a bit disappointing in the sack.
Oh, God.
There we go.
I mean, those two together, that'd be hell on earth, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else?
You'd have to talk.
I think that's really all I've got, apart from just generally loving so much about it. Again, Yaz was great, but was sidelined inevitably by this episode. Everybody had to move over for Jodie this time.
I mean, that's fair enough. She is the star, and you kind of want her to shine.
One last question then. So, do we think Flux needed its compacted episodes, its 7 and 8 episodes that was the original plan?
I would say so.
Is the universe still there is the biggest question, I guess.
Yeah, I think the universe will have to be rebooted by the end or something. I mean, Matt Smith managed to do it.
Well, it also is the Division HQ still hanging between universes, piloted by one dude.
It's like the Pandorica was an Apple time machine backup of the universe. So basically there must be one that exists somewhere.
It's probably on like a floppy disk or something. It'd be like Holly in that Red Dwarf episode. Yeah.
I always did think that way with the Pandorica. I thought, basically it's just doing a restart.
Oh God, how many terabytes is that?
Yeah. Geez.
All right. No, well, I think maybe next episode we can do a kind of maybe overview of Flux.
Yeah, because I'm planning on watching the whole thing in one go.
Yeah.
I want to kind of experience it as a whole thing. I'll do it on a Sunday, basically.
Yeah, I'll have meals and go to the toilet and
lots
stuff.
of sandwiches.
It'd be like the when they used to run all the Star Trek movies back to back throughout a day.
Hey, I've got a story about that.
Okay,
actually.
tangent.
I used to work when I lived in Luton. I worked in the cinema. I was like doorman at the cinema down there, and I was friends with the manager at Bedford.
Mm-hmm.
And me and a couple of the other ushers, we decided we were going to go and see, because they were doing all 6 at the point.
Oh yeah,
Star Trek movies, right? Overnight.
Overnight.
So through the night. So we went after work. We finished about 7 o'clock, and we got a lift to Bedford. And we got in. Now,
I'm totally picturing it in a sort of rattling old red van because of the Peter Cushing Dalek movie when they go to Bedford.
Ah, right. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we passed the Dalek mine.
Do you have to jump out of the van and go up firebombs?
Yeah, and we had Andrew Cairn driving.
Yeah.
But, we got there and we sat... we were there for the... I think it finished about 10 in the morning. We went for breakfast and then went to work.
Wow.
So we watched the whole thing. I think we slept during a bit of the first one.
Well, there's also the fifth one to sleep on.
And the fifth one. And we sort of watched the good ones.
Oh.
But the thing we noticed because we were watching them all is there's the bits where the Enterprise is space dock. There's a guy in a spacesuit with little batons that stands
like in
going
airports.
like that. Sorry for listeners. He's guiding the traffic like a traffic cop.
I think he's in the first film, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in the first one, but he's in subsequent ones.
Oh, really?
And once it's docked, he does a little... Well,
he does a somersault or something?
Yeah, it's a Burliwilk. It's a
have...
Scottish word. He does a little...
A what?
Yeah, a Burliwilk.
Burliwilk?
In school, or when I was growing up anyway, if you sort of like did, forward roll or...
Right, yeah.
We called it a Burliwilk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a mythical creature.
It does, doesn't it?
It's like, eat your peas or the Burliwilk will get you.
Do you know, it's a word I haven't actually, thought in my head for, fucking years.
Cool.
Basically.
That can be who the Grand Serpent is teaming up with to fight Jericho and Sideburns.
The Burliwilks.
And, of course, the day can be saved by Professor Jackagin's stuff.
Yay! There we go. So, I hear you have a little tale to tell as well.
Yeah, talking of tangents. So we were going to get our vaccine boosters today, and I gave Chaz a lift along with my ex. And my ex had been on a works night out, and as they were leaving the pub, it's like 1 a.m. or whatever, one of our colleagues was approached by a man who said, I think the colleague had a Doctor Who t-shirt
Doctor
on.
Who,
yeah. So the man says, I've got a TARDIS in the back of my van. Do you want to see it? We're like, what? It's like, you can tell the programme's popular when it's replacing sweets and puppies.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently there really was a TARDIS in the back of his van. It was a present for his wife. You now want to track him down?
Yeah. I want him to marry me so he can buy me a TARDIS. I'll happily go with him. No problem. Could you imagine, though, 1 a.m. or something, right? Approaching a young woman and saying, I've got a TARDIS in my van. Do you want it? What? I mean, do you...
It's a more innocent world.
It is a more innocent world because really and truly, in no way does that ever sound innocent, even though it was. It actually bloody was.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose Doctor Who fans see other Doctor Who fans and they immediately...
Yeah, it's like dog owners or smokers who've got a bond.
Yeah. But... unfortunately, we're not in a nice world sometimes.
No, true.
But I think that story just made my heart leap with joy.
Oh, great fun.
So good.
A man is the sum of his memories, a Time Lord even more so.
It is time for your Cheatin Memory, where we've randomly selected a show from the whole of Doctor Who's past and gone and rewatched it. And we were delighted to get Evil of the Daleks, not least because it's actually been animated, so we don't have to watch telesnaps.
Oh, thank fuck. They are the bane of my life. Anyway, let's talk about Evil.
Yes.
Because that was great.
Yeah, such good fun. And I think it, the animation does it proud and really cements its deserved reputation as a classic. And I think the animation looked great. We watched the black and white 4:3 version, and then we switched to the surviving episode, the real episode footage for episode 2, which I think is always nice because it just fleshes out what the world would look like, and you can see how faithful the animation is of the bits that overlap.
The running bit at the start looked a little bit clunky.
It was like Mr. Ben with bad runs.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it reminded me of Mr. Ben. We will get to that. But the backgrounds were so well realised. The Daleks, everything was, really working well. And once we actually got into it, you got so used to the animation, you were kind of just forgetting about that and getting really into the story. And it's a cracking little story.
You accept
really
the visual world of it after a while. And I think the Daleks were 3D models and the people were 2D. And there were a couple of moments where the two didn't coexist especially well, but for the most part it was fantastic. And, you know, just lovely, lovely stuff to see. There was one rather glorious moment where I thought they'd animated a boom sticking into shot at the top of frame. But then I realised it was swinging. It was actually the pendulum
of a clock.
That is a great attention to detail.
No, it really would have been, wouldn't it?
But no, what else did we enjoy?
The maid.
Oh, Molly.
Molly, oh my God.
Out of a Carry On film.
Yeah, she was straight out of a Carry On film. I mean, the amount of times she was trying to grope Jamie or whatever.
Oh, and there's a line she has where she says she doesn't know what it's like with soldiers.
She was hilarious. The only thing she was missing was like a feather duster going, "Oops, sir, you caught me."
Yeah. So I liked, there's a bit in episode 1, the Doctor says, "Oh, TARDIS is a Gaelic word." Although Gaelic rather than Gaelic, but never mind. And then Jamie's got a brilliant line near there, which is like, "You're foreign, I'm Scottish."
And of course he was right.
Well, yes. Dear. So Kennedy, in person rather than in the animation, I thought looked a bit like Tim Brooke Taylor.
Yeah, he did a bit, didn't he?
But in episode 2, the existing episode, they used a circular wipe at one point, which I thought was quite unusual.
It's a bit weird.
Quite stylish for the show.
Yeah.
What else is going on? There's rather alarming stuff about Victoria about to be force-fed if she doesn't eat enough.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Daleks have taken over Weight Watchers.
Well, now we know what the sink plunger's for, I guess.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could just imagine it. 4 pounds you've lost. You are Weight Watcher of the week.
There's a fluff from Maxtable early doors where he says Whitefield, and I think it must be meant to be Waterfield. So the weak point of the production, animated or not, I think, was the portrait of Victoria's mother. Because it has this plot sort of function to get Jamie all fired up about rescuing Victoria. And it's an otherwise beautiful production, but the portrait, it looks awful on the real footage. And the animation tidies it up a bit, but it's still pretty woeful. Mind you, I don't think the animation did Debbie Watling justice either.
Yeah, she wasn't. I mean, the thing is, Debbie Watling in that looks absolutely stunning. It's very difficult to recreate that. The same with Bridget Forsyth.
Oh, Ruth Maxwell.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't look that great in the animation. I mean, in real life, she's lovely, but, you know.
It's a strange thing. I think she just looked a bit older in the animation.
Yeah. I thought Troughton and Fraser Hines looked good, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where you want the effort to go, obviously, to the leads. I mean, the animation's fine within itself, but comparing it with the real people in episode 2, I thought, they toned down a lot of the excesses of Maxtable's beard, which is a shame, but obviously difficult to animate hair. Yeah. And then, I thought Waterfield looked quite different as well.
Yeah, he sort of looked like an aristocratic vampire in the animation. Do you know what it reminded me of? Scream of the Shalka.
Oh, yes, it did, with the look of Richard E. Grant.
Yeah,
it
really did.
I don't know if anybody was in common with that production in terms of the artwork, but who knows.
Possibly.
Other than those nitpicks, just an amazing effort. And beautiful to have the episode to watch. Good.
And the last 2 episodes, I think, are utterly brilliant. I love it when the Doctor, isolates the human factor for the Daleks. And it's the most passive cliffhanger in Doctor Who history. The Daleks take the Doctor on a train ride, and that is the fucking cliffhanger, which I just think is wonderful.
It doesn't always have to be peril, I suppose. The cliffhanger's job, I suppose, is to get you to watch the next episode. So seeing more of the childishly playful Daleks would be a big hook.
Wasn't that brilliant?
Oh yeah.
I mean, and just seeing the Daleks in a completely different way was wonderful. We get the Emperor and the voice. Yes. Oh my God, it's so good, you know. And they've animated that entire chamber beautifully.
We were talking about the scale of the recreation and the fact that I think it's just bang on correct that you don't do what George Lucas does and have, when you had 10 stormtroopers, have 100. Yeah. You recreate what was there and tidy up the rough edges. Yeah. But it's faithful to the vision of the original makers of the program and the limits to an extent. You know, because I think, yes, you could reimagine it that this was a truly epic battle between thousands of Daleks, but that's not what I want to see. I want to get as close as possible to seeing what was there.
The beauty of the Blu-ray is you get that. Mm-hmm. And then in the colour version, you get a sort of, you know, what you
wider frame.
Discussing, a wider frame, colour. I don't think the animation itself changes in any way, but it gives you a different sort of look to it, and it's nice to sort of see it like that. I mean, on the third disc, I still can't go over this. On the third disc, it's the fucking Telesnaps recreation on a Blu-ray. It's got a nostalgic air to it, I suppose.
It's also more of the original that you don't otherwise see.
Because some of the Dalek battle exists and blah, blah,
blah. So, I mean, I can't imagine I'll ever want to sit through it again linearly, but it's nice to have it, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
From an archivist and a kind of completist point of view, for sure. One last little silly thought is on the front of the cabinets of the Daleks in the lab before they come out all humanised. It's like a giant bottle opener, isn't it?
Yeah, I did think that myself, actually. I was looking at it. It was in the back of my head, but I was sort of like, what am I thinking about, you know? Because I did feel like a beer. During it. It was like product placement.
Oh my, subliminal advertising.
But then I sort of went, a fucking bottle.
You're not having cigars after Maxtable smoking.
Well, you know, my lungs feel like they've been through a cheese grater.
Lovely. Well, I think we should maybe choose a new episode. Have you any more to say about Evil?
No, just that I really loved it. Good. I thought it was fantastic, and it was just so nice to watch a Pat Troughton, you know, a complete Pat Troughton. I mean, I'd only watched it a few weeks ago, remember, when... of course, yeah. When Steve bought it for me. So, you know, and a big thanks, Steve, because, well, we'd have had to get it by probably more nefarious means or something.
Like Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, when I give the word, press the button. The big one? Yes, maybe it works in conjunction with the others.
Okay, time to choose a new story.
All right, well, let's try and find out. Now, what could it be?
Oh, you're not going to be happy. The Saranga Conundrum.
You're fucking joking.
Yeah, we had to have a new series again at some point. I haven't watched it since broadcast. I did like the Pating. I know you didn't.
Oh.
I really liked the Pating.
Why?
Well, we were talking about the sort of blandness of the sets last week, I think, so it'd be good to sort of see if that's true in memory and to go back.
I mean, do you know, I think that, see if that had been Beat the Meat or something, that would have been great.
Well, you think fan service could have saved it?
It could have, because it would have made it interesting.
Yeah, for those who don't know Beep the Meep, will you explain Beep the Meep?
Beep the Meep is a character that was in a Fourth Doctor comic strip.
In Doctor Who magazine, right?
Yeah, and basically he was a cute little alien who played on people's sort of, you know, feelings of anthropomorphized, you know, sort of big eyes, etc. But he was actually a genocidal warlord.
So Beep the Bastard.
Yeah, basically who had sort of like slaughtered millions and things.
Yeah.
But he's doing the big eyes thing and all this with the Doctor and the companion, and he's trapped somewhere in the TARDIS in some sort of dimension, you know, prison.
Yeah, I have read it about years ago.
Yeah, so I just thought, oh, that would have been so cool. The other character it could have been is they could have got Nibbler from Futurama. Remember?
Oh, yes.
That would have been a great crossover. But
yeah, fun and games.
Whatever.
Well, Saranga Conundrum, I think I'm quite happy about that. You know, it's one that I haven't revisited.
Oh, God. Well, I've deliberately not revisited practically any of that yet, but yeah, well, whatever.
If you like, if it'll help you, what I could do is...
it. Okay.
No, I could reduce it to a series of still images with a linking narration, if you like.
Oh, fuck off. Okay, we'll watch them. Well, I suppose it's short, at least.
I mean, it's a bit of a challenge, and I can't quite see the solution yet, but that's life.
So it's challenge time now. I've asked Chaz a lot to watch the Mutants, and I know, you know, things are winding down for Christmas, so I'm hoping that you've had a less eventful time of things with no kind of upheavals that might have prevented you from watching it.
Well, basically, last week, I went to Christmas party.
Nice.
With me and my ex have been getting on a bit better for the first time in years. So she invited me to her work's Christmas party. Now she's quite sort of, she works for a very, very big company, and she's sort of quite high up in the management.
Yeah.
So I flew down, and I got to the sort of, at the HQ. They were having the party and that. And I sort of met her and said, look, I'm a bit tired or whatever.
Yeah, understandable.
So she said, well, just use my office as a shower and all that.
Oh,
so,
nice.
So I had a shower and I sort of, lay down a bit, and I thought, watch some Mutants. Finally get this thing out of the way that's, it's becoming a bit of a millstone, you know.
Yeah. Well, I admire you putting your social life to one side.
No, exactly. It's sort of, it's for both of us. And I thought, well, it can't be that bad,
That's what I've been saying.
So, thought, right, so I put it on, switched it on, starts, and it's jumpy at me, blah, blah, blah. And I just hear this almighty bloody crash.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, what the fuck? So I paused it, and I looked out, and, well, I just heard gunfire.
What?
No, seriously, gunfire. Oh, what the fuck? So I look at the door, and there's people screaming, running around. And there's about 6 guys with guns, and some fucking bloke with a really dodgy German accent, right? Ordering everybody about. I managed to get out of the room, and I went through some of the venting ducts, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the annoying thing was, I didn't even have time to get dressed properly. All I had on was my fucking vest. I'd even never had my shoes. What I did was, I managed to get hold of a gun, and I managed to take out most of them. I got some of their C4 and that, bit of an explosion. Managed to get most people out. The only problem was the Mutants, my copy of the Mutants got destroyed because, well, half the building's fucking destroyed and on fire.
But, wow, what a hero, man.
I know.
Well done.
Well, I mean, what can I say? Yippee-ki-yay.
So, do you think you could watch it next week when you're in that airport?
Yeah.
Great, try hard.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Thanks.
In my box are such delights.
So, this is Box of Delights, where we have randomly chosen basically a bit of TV from our childhood or the past and rewatched it.
Shit upon it.
Well, sometimes. I haven't seen a lot of these, but Chaz has. We've got a box full of them to make our way through in due course. Yep. But we've been watching Mr. Ben, and we've now finished off Mr. Ben.
Delightful, isn't it?
Yeah. So, do we think he is Sideburns pre-incarnated, or is it a different man who's been wandering through all these rooms to adventures?
Who knows, but I possibly have to go back to we finished off Mr. Ben to give him a happy ending. I'm sorry.
Cutting that.
I hate you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, so we watched a bunch of episodes, actually. There was one with him in a diver's costume, where he goes and meets captains of 2 different submarines, a red one, a green one, and absolutely not a yellow one.
No copyright infringement here.
Though the green one was only green sort of to the neck down.
The green one was bloody yellow.
It was, wasn't it? Sneaky. It's like green on top and yellow underneath, where no copyright lawyers were looking.
Absolutely.
But it was good fun.
I mean, there's the interesting thing I find about Mr. Ben is it's like solutions are so charming.
Yeah, he gets them to disguise. They're trying to find a sea monster, and he gets the 2 submarines to disguise each other as sea monsters, and then they chase each other around and leave the poor monster in peace.
Yeah, and it's
lovely.
There's never anything.
Spoilers for Mr. Ben.
Yeah, spoilers. For fuck's sake.
Too soon.
But I mean, it's like the monster is quite nice. He's not a monster. He's just quite nice and he's shy.
Yeah. There's a mermaid.
The dragon is a bit upset.
There's this knights coming at him.
Yeah. Actually, one of the best ones was the last one, the gladiator, because, well, we have a character that comes back.
Who never
from
came
a
before.
Previous, you were saying he was in the zoo episode or something.
No, he was in the unfilmed
That's right.
book,
yeah,
which was set in prison.
Yeah.
Smasher LeGroux, who's a character from the prison book. But the Gladiator episode is the one that was made more recently.
Yeah.
But they've just introduced him as if you know who he is. Mr. Ben goes, oh, it's you again, sort of thing. So.
But they've kept the animation style. They've kept all the style. There's maybe a bit of different incidental music because they always seem to use the same music.
Yeah. There was a lot of different music.
Yeah. The interesting thing, though, was the plot, because it's like, you know, they all get taken to the gladiatorial ring and they're waiting for the Emperor to do his thumb up or thumbs down. But every time they're about to do that, Mr. Ben blows a whistle because the Emperor's really fascinated by the road. And they used to do this whenever he visited. And it's sort of a Pavlovian dog
Trained the Emperor.
sort of thing, because every time the whistles, he basically thumbs up. So he eventually releases all the prisoners, and then the most, I suppose, gruesome ending, or the most gruesome Mr. Ben thing, is he manages to release the lions on the Emperor and the crowd, and the Emperor's apparently still being chased by lions.
Yeah, well, the crowd escaped, and the Emperor's last seen running for it. But
yeah, which I was like, oh, wow,
Mr.
we've
Ben takes
actually
no
got
prisoners.
something happening.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's the clean of the animation, but it's very much faithful to the style, right down to the dodgy leg animations.
Oh, God, I know. That's so funny with the animation on the legs. You know?
So the few others we watched in between, there's a cowboy one where Mr. Ben indulges in a bit of horse theft, and we were sort of braced for cultural insensitivity. But apart from referring to Native Americans as Red Indians, which was what everybody at the time did, I guess, was good and fun. Instead of battling, the cowboys and Indians play hide and seek.
Oh yeah, they play hide and seek.
Doesn't sacrifice the historical accuracy. There you go.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because the episodes where you're about, oh God, something's going to go horribly wrong here, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's not. I mean, considering the time it was made in, you do sort of go into expecting something.
I mean, it's full of stereotypes, but
yeah, but it's not. There's not anything.
Nothing tremendously cringeworthy.
No,
and
it's
hopefully.
just very charming.
Yeah. Well, they do make this whole plot about feet and walking, though, with them leaving footprints. So they really had to up their animation game for the feet.
Or they find ways of not animating the feet. You know, like I don't know, cloaks or something.
When he's the wizard, which we watched as well, then he's under a nice sort of floor-length cloak.
They must have loved that episode.
But the clown one was the next one. So I wondered if the clown car was yet another way of getting out of animating his legs, because he's driving along in the clown car.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That was an amazing car. The wheels came back.
Yes, homing wheels. The magic carpet one is next, which I really don't have much to say about, apart from fun and games, bits of the Alibaba plot.
It was actually, again, that's one I was like, oh,
yeah,
God,
what we're going to get.
We're going to...
But it was just Alibaba, essentially, wasn't it?
It was, but it was actually, I mean, the orphan wishes for a palace, but then the orphan frees a genie and gives him the palace.
Yeah,
so the
goes
orphan
back to poverty.
Doesn't want anything. I thought, how sweet.
Poor but happy.
Naive.
Spaceman was next. So
Oh.
he finally makes friends with his neighbours, we noticed.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And then he's also kind of got a companion or following another space person around in the spaceship. This was the equivalent of Skipper, the Red Dwarf episode we just talked about, because he goes to lots of different planets and they all have something differently weird about them. And I liked the one where nothing was coloured in. It was
It just felt French to me.
it was like sort of French colouring in book before you've done the colouring.
Yeah,
So the last of the sort of main run, at least in the order on the DVD, was Pirates are fun.
Arr.
Yeah, we were waiting for him to say yo ho ho, or don't we say that? But they kind of didn't go down that road.
It was a weird one because basically they got to their treasure island as well, and there was another set of pirates, and they were going to plunder, and it turns out they had fruit trees and they just shared them and planted them.
I mean, maybe you think that the history of long sea voyages in those years was you were desperate for any sort of vitamin C you could get hold of.
I suppose.
Get rid of the scurvy.
Yeah, you scurvy knave.
Give me that lemon. So what generally overall do we think, having watched all of Mr. Ben? I'll tell you what, he never pays the shopkeeper, ever.
I know.
It's
if
like-
I was the shopkeeper, I would bloody ban him.
And more seriously, although only a little more seriously, does he forget himself in each adventure? Because there's a few hints that the shopkeeper's going to have to sort of remind him who he is.
I've always had that sort of theory with him, because it's like, I think it's a little bit like the Narnia thing, where they kind of
They forget over
time where they came, and then the shopkeeper appears, and then suddenly
There's a couple of lines like, he thought he recognised him from somewhere or something like that. So
we do have the theory that basically the shop is a TARDIS. It's Matt Smith. He walks through that door, and it's a bit like that bit on Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, or the Inside the TARDIS one with a beach in there and things. So, it could be. It just could be that he's casually kidnapping Mr. Ben.
It's either a TARDIS or it's Williamson's tunnels. There's no two ways about it.
Well, yeah. Either that, or Mr. Ben is going to be paid back for his crimes, and every time the shopkeeper sends him through, he's waiting to see if this is going to be the punishment, but Mr. Ben always manages to solve it. He's thwarted at every episode.
Charms his way out of it. I would like to read the missing prison story now, but maybe if it's a Judoon prison, then I think we're onto something. Do you know? I mean, it's a charming, lovely series, part of our childhood. But do you know who hates it? Fancy dress shopkeepers.
Yeah,
because talk about raising unrealistic expectations. How many children of that generation must have gone to a fancy dress shop and been like, and then been like, oh,
hey,
it's just a bunch of clothes. That was Box of Delights doing Mr. Ben. And we're going to not do a random one for next time because as a Christmas special, Chaz has persuaded me to join in with his annual tradition of watching the actual Box of Delights series, which I haven't seen since it was broadcast. And so I'm really excited about watching this. So we will talk about that next time.
Yeah, I basically I watch it every year while I'm wrapping Christmas presents. It sort of really gets me in the mood.
And of course, Patrick Troughton. So lovely thing.
Oh,
great.
God, he's lovely in it.
A monster of frightening size and power.
So it's time for Monster by Monster. We're going to select monsters and aliens from a list from the BBC website with the aid of a random number generator from random.org. So here we go. We will say things about number 97, Logopolitans. They sit around with abacuses all day.
Yeah, basically. I like the monitor in Logopolis.
The guy, or
the main guy. Curry, curry, gok. They sort of made up Bigmead again. He sort of made up this mathematical language for them. I love that story. People describe it, and I love the term. It's got a funerary air to it.
Yeah.
It does feel very doom laden.
I mean, possibly, I guess this was the first story to do this big foreshadowing of a regeneration, which
very much
I think I'm now thoroughly fed up of.
Yeah, I suppose.
Somebody else said on Twitter my exact thought, which is I would love the Doctor just to fall down and get up with a new face, please.
Yeah, sure. No, the Logopolitan's good, and it was a nice, interesting, they're all in their little caves with their abacuses. And,
I would not want to live that life.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be horrible, but it's interesting, when the Master starts killing off and how it sort of buggers up the whole spatial pattern.
Well, they're human components in a giant computer, essentially.
Because they kind of have a hive mind mentality.
Beehive haircuts. So.
Yeah, well,
there we go.
Very true.
All right, let's do another. 249. So it's the Chagaska, and having had to pause and look that up, because I don't remember a lot of the alien names from these recent episodes. It's from Can You Hear Me? And it's the monster that appears in Aleppo.
Oh, the one in sort of ancient
Aleppo.
Yeah.
Not a big part of the episode.
Yeah, really. I think it's only at the start. I was sort of there was some interesting bits in that. I was quite interested that they had such good mental health facilities back then.
In Aleppo,
yeah. So that I learned something. So at least it fulfilled a Rethian creed.
Yes. No, it's summoned up by the sort of the big bads in the episode. There's not much else to say about it other than a beast that comes and goes quite quickly in the episode, I think. Let's do another 42. Oh, this should be my favourite one. Douglas Adams reference. 42 is Agador, Dor.
Oh, Carspelodon.
Yeah, it's Agador's...
Fleggen, flach, flim, flobben, doch, fau.
Getting a lot of weird singing in this episode. It's one of those that has a sort of wider legend than its sort of amount of screen time, really, a bit like the Dreshigs from last time.
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual because, I mean, Agador is sort of what the sort of focus of what people remember. But those two stories are very interesting, political thing, allegories about the EU and joining the common market and all that. And there was a plan to do a third Peladon story.
Oh, yes.
You know, that Empress of Mars was going to be originally about Brexit, technically. So, but Agador, I mean, it's a great looking monster, and I think it's one of the highlights of the Pertwee era. I can't say I'm a big fan of the stories, but I do like Agador, and I, for some reason, always remember the sort of, Pertwee trying to calm him down with that little lullaby thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a quite a cuddly monster in some regards once it's tamed, and I think maybe the Gruffalo owes a little bit of its look to it.
Yes, that's a good point. Actually, he's very, very Gruffalo.
When they do a third story, if they say, well, the Agador has a purple prickle on the end of its nose, then we'll know. One more, then I think we'll wrap up Monster by Monster with number 191, Act 10.
Oh, the mummy.
Creature that has rings.
Yeah.
It's sort of built up a lot, and then, I guess it's sort of delivers.
Yeah, because he becomes the planet. He's the planet, because the mummy is the sort of gatekeeper thing. So the Doctor tells a story, and the idea being that, it eats the stories or whatever.
It goes into that thing of paying with memories. Or paying with...
and he does the most beautiful speech just before, when he says, about his memories and walked in universes created by the laws of a madman, and oh God, I cannot express how much I love that story. I love the music, I love everything about it, and I think one of the most beautiful things is that the Doctor is actually failing against Akaten, and Clara jumps in with that leaf.
Yeah.
And I know there's so many Clara haters out there, but my God, I love her so much.
I'm going to start calling this segment But What About the Monster?
Yes, I know. But I mean, there's not much to say about a planet that sort of just goes smoky.
No, fair enough. And tangents, of course, we love. But I think it's crystallised for me one thing, which when we talked about that one before, when we rewatched it, we thought a lot of the big special effect visuals were a bit lacking. But the creature design and all the aliens in the market, and the Vigil, which we had previously, they're all really strong kind of sort of physical masks and whatever. So and I think the mummy, the creature in the tomb, all good. Yeah.
I mean, you remember the bit in the market where they're sort of arguing with the trader, for the thing. I mean, that was great as well. The actual
I think that it went on physical effects, didn't it? The money that week.
Much.
So great. Well, that was Monster by Talk About the Monster, damn it.
Sorry, guy.
We'll do more another time.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
9 times out of 10.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, or if you're any good at telebiogenesis, we can be reached by email at randomiserpodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/randomiser, or follow us on Twitter at randomiserpod. And in all cases,
that is randomiser with a S, not a Z.
Where's the real Chaz?
See, I can actually do it.
What's been going wrong all this time then? Number 97. What could that be? Wrong clip.